Welcome to the Disco Club. One of the things that I wanted to talk about right now is actually wine tasting. To a lot of people, it seems like a really complicated process, but hopefully we can simplify it and make it a lot of fun for you. So one of the first questions that I get with a lot of people is like, why do you twirl your wine? Why do you smell your wine? And that process is all about opening up the experience. Wine is very sensory. So when you're deciding whether or not a wine is good, the first question is, do you like it? But there is a lot of in-depth information that helps you determine how you like it. So I'm going to set up kind of a 4-step process for you. So first of all, wine tasting is mindful. You're paying attention to how the wine smells, how it looks, and how it moves in the glass. And lastly, when you take a sip, you're paying attention to how it feels in your mouth. Does it make your mouth water? Does it make your teeth kind of fuzzy? Does it have a lot of texture to it? And what are the flavors that you're getting? So when I look at this wine, I'm seeing that it's kind of a nice red color, and I see that it moves around the glass easily and that it leaves these marks that we call legs, which is an indicator of a certain level of viscosity with the wine. The next thing I do is smell it. This particular wine is not one of the wine club wines. It is the Dundee Hills Pinot Noir by J.C. Summers, which we also carry in shop. And so what I'm getting on this is a lot of fruit flavors. And so that's another question that people ask. Do they add fruit to the wine, or why do you call out these flavors? And it's because wine is associative. So when we have these experiences, it makes us remember things that we've had that are similar. So to me, I smell on this a little bit of cranberry, some dark raspberry. It reminds me of being in Oregon and kind of what the forest smells like when you're hiking through it. So it's not just fruit flavors, it's all kinds of other experiences that come up. So on the palate, and you may be asking yourself, why did Mick just twirl that, and do I have to do that when I taste? So no is the answer to the second question, but for me and for a lot of people, bringing air into the wine kind of helps spread out all of the flavors so you can get an idea of what components are happening in your mouth. And so the first one I pay attention to, we talked about texture and about mouthwatery. Like you can hear as I'm talking, this wine is making my mouth water. That means it has great acidity. The texture on there, it's a little bit fuzzy in the front, which I expect for a Pinot Noir. So it has what we call light tannins. And then there's kind of this like deeper flavor. So that cranberry carries over. I'm getting little like really beautiful light hints of oak, which tend to taste like vanilla or toastiness. And then lastly, the wine has what we call body, which is a concept that can be confusing to a lot of people. But I like, and a common analogy is to think about milk, right? So something with a light body would be like skim milk. It doesn't have a lot of weight in your mouth. It doesn't take a lot to kind of move it around. And then something that's very full body would be like whole milk, or even sometimes wines get into the heavy cream territory, which is pretty rare, but they can be fun. And lastly, the last thing I'm thinking about is like, what are the flavors and tastes? So all of that is kind of your mindful sensory experience. The other things to think about, we touched briefly on it, the interactive quality of wine. Do I like a wine because of who I'm with or what I'm doing? Is this happening at a really great dinner? And also the other part is that wine changes as you have it in your glass. As it gets more exposure to the air, there's chemical changes with the oxygen that happen and that change it. So it's fun to sit with a glass, and it helps to have someone to chat with or to have a fun book to read while you're letting the wine wait. Another thing to consider in terms of the interactivity is the context. You may be less likely to enjoy a super deep vintage Bordeaux if you're sitting at the beach. And so the idea is, if you're deciding whether or not you like a wine, to kind of allow all of those things to come into play. And then lastly, the wine experience is associative. So does it make you think of memories? Does it make you think about foods that you've had before? Does it make you think about other wines you've had before, or other drinks or other cocktails? And so all of these things combine into the wine tasting experience. So a lot of folks, when they taste wine, they drink it and say like, oh, it's just wine. What's special about it? I invite you in particular, because we're in this space of discovery and learning about new wines, to actually take a minute and be mindful. Think about the interactive properties of the wine. Think about the context in which you're drinking the wine. And lastly, think about all of the associations that you bring up with it. Cheers.